Cool. Cool. So, is that fixed now? Are we good?
I think so.
All right, cool. All right, awesome. So, yes, we're back here for episode 18 of the show, talking about the Bulldogs' victory over Chambersburg and the pending game against the Harrisburg Cougars, which will be in the District 3 6A semifinals. It is a rematch of last year's game where Harrisburg defeated Wilson. That was on Saturday in November up at Severance Field. So kind of flipping the script a little bit this year. Township and Central Dauphin are meeting the other semifinal, and that is a rematch of a playoff game from last year. And Eric Thomas, the Central Dauphin radio guy, I believe said that this is the 4th straight year that the two teams have met in the playoffs and the regular season, because Central Dauphin, Wilson, Manheim Township all play each other during the regular season and have done so for a long time. So we're also at the point where this was to be expected. This is exactly what everyone thought it would be.
It was chalk.
Really way back when Central Dolphins started to hit their stride. You know, they started the season 1-2 with losses to Wilson and Manheim Township. Then they started to win a few games, and then they won some big games against Harrisburg and State College.
Yeah, they've won all of them since then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they won 7 straight, finished 8-2.
So playing technically the only team that is hotter than them in District 3, and that would be Manheim Township.
And only one of them can advance. So it's kind of exactly what many expected, you know, halfway through the season. Back in week 5, week 6, people were like, there are 4 standout teams in District 3 6A, and they are the exact 4 that are left standing. So
here we go. It's going to play itself out over the next 2 weeks.
We heard Coach Dom say after our interview last week that, you know, he thought that there were 5 teams that could win the district title, and 4 of them were left standing. There weren't any upsets during the playoffs last week. Almost, not quite. And, you know, here we are.
Yeah.
But to figure out how we got there, we have to see the Wilson victory from this past Friday. So we're going to take a look at some highlights, the statistics, and all that good stuff. But first, we'll go through the kind of the house cleaning stuff we like to do. I do want to mention, not directly related to the Bulldog Hour, but relationship to the Wilson football team. I want to thank Weichel Realty Group for sponsoring the game live stream this past week. They paid the media rights fee that is owed to District 3 to broadcast the game, which was done by Wilson Media Productions, which is awesome because they have, you know, a mobile command center and 3 HD cameras. But it wouldn't have been made possible without someone paying the District 3 fee, and Weichel Realty Group did that this past week. So thank them for doing that so that many of you could watch the game from afar. I know a lot of you that can't make it to Gursky each week like to have the game streams, and during the year, the school does a great job at the home games. I do the away games, and it doesn't really cost anyone anything. But once we get to the playoffs, District 3 says, not so fast, my friend.
Yeah, exactly.
And we did have an anonymous donor step up, and they are going to allow me to stream the game this week. They're going to pay the semifinal fee, and I will be doing it from my iPad, so it won't be like the way it was this past week. But the Wilson Media Productions will be setting up for the Veterans event. So and I think this is the 18th year that they're doing it.
Crazy.
So
and that is a huge event, and a lot goes into that. But obviously an awesome cause. So
it started back when we were in high school at Wilson. Yeah. So it's been going on for a while. It is a great event, great cause, and Wilson Media Productions is a big part of that. So they'll be busy getting ready for that next weekend. So I will be taking care of the live stream for the game Friday against Harrisburg. So besides Weichel sponsoring the game feed last week, our Bulldog Hour show sponsors again are May's Sandwich Shop, Topher's 10th and Elm Cafe, 2 anonymous donors, and Mr. Andy Herr, who had a phenomenal write-up for Eastern PA football this week after our victory over Chambersburg. And, you know, send our condolences to him for his collegiate football fandom.
We were texting each other yesterday, checking to see if we needed to check in on. Yeah, was that today?
Welfare. It was yesterday.
Okay.
Welfare check.
Yeah. Do we need to send a check for Andy?
Yeah. So hopefully he's enjoying his weekend and can put that in the past and get ready for a little bit more high school football before he takes a deep dive into LL hoops, because that's his bread and butter right there.
Yeah. So.
All right, and there's multiple ways that you can help us: sponsorship and advertising, donations, the website, and like Justin's favorite, spreading the word.
Yeah, like and share. Whether it's, for example, we really liked Andy's write up. He does a great job, but I thought he did an awesome job this week. Write up of the game for Eastern PA Sports. So I try and share that out with people who I think may be interested. So that's how you spread the word. And if you like the show, like and share. That just helps get the word out.
Like I said at the beginning of the show, but you may not have been able to hear it, we'll be back for episode 19 on November 10th, 1 week from now. All right, so there's only a few weeks of the season left, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah.
It's win or go home time, but no matter what, we're at a maximum number of games left for Wilson at 4.
Yeah. So by the end of, by this Friday's game, the most it could be is another month. Right.
So maximum.
Yeah. Whew. It's crazy. It comes at you fast.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Yeah. And, looking at the 2019 schedule soon enough, hopefully, and, I don't know if it'll happen by the time we do our season wrap-up, because like Justin just said, it could be next weekend. It could be a month from now. We don't know. And hopefully it is a month from now. That'd be quite good. But if not in time for the show in the next 5 weeks, sometime probably in February, like we did this past year, we'll have the kickoff for the Bulldog Hour 6th season, and on that show we'll most likely debut the 2020 schedule. And the reason it's kind of up in the air is Wilson doesn't have a 4th game yet.
Right.
And I know there's, obviously that's been going on behind the scenes. They've been working on that for a while. It's tough to do so during the season at times. A lot of people are very, very busy. The coaching staff and athletic directors from schools that you're talking with. The season's winding down now. Hopefully that slot will be filled, but we don't know who it's going to be. And there are changes not only for the non-league schedule, but the league schedule as well, because the LL League, remember, is switching from 3 sections to 4 sections. Right. So Wilson's losing an opponent there. They have to find an additional non-league game. There will still be the crossover game, which I think will still be Mannheim Central, but I guess it could be Cocalico. I don't know what 3 seasons they're using to determine that. Are they using 19, 18, and 17? Because it's 3 years to determine the crossover game.
It would make sense to use those, right? But that doesn't mean that's what they're using.
Right. That's what I'm not confident on predicting who that's going to be, because there's a chance it could be Cocalico.
See, that would be interesting in lots of ways, but like even the unintended ways of that too. Like, for example, Mannheim Township and Mannheim Central scrimmage every year. Well, if that was the crossover game, I guarantee you they're not scrimmaging.
Right.
It's just
that would have to change.
Right. So. Like just all those things. That would be interesting. And like you mentioned, we don't know we don't know the details on that, but we just know how the mechanics of it are supposed to work. We don't know the details. So we'll kind of have to wait and see there. But
and I was just thinking about this, and this may be published somewhere, and someone listening may even know, but is it just league results? Is it regular season results? Is it full season results?
Right. See, I don't know that I'm sure it's written down somewhere.
Right.
But I don't know that
is it
like
published
District
somewhere?
3 publishes lots of stuff on there. You just have to kind of do a deep dive and find it. LL League, league places are less likely to have that kind of just put out there. So we'll have to wait and see, but it'll be interesting to follow.
Oh, for sure. So, Wilson's going to open the season with Central Dauphin, most likely, I would assume, at Central Dauphin, as This has been an ongoing 2-year contract. So Wilson should open the season at Central Dauphin. The season actually is going to be shifted a week later this year because of the way the calendar
Right.
falls. So, this past year the first game was on August 23rd. I think the first game next year is like August 28th or something like that, because it's a leap year next year. So you got all that going on. So dates aren't shuffling just one day. But the first game of the year is right near at the end of August. It's at Central Dauphin. Next week, Wilson will host Mifflin, Labor Day weekend. Then week 3, Wilson is going to Exeter. That's a new game for the next 2-year cycle. Week 4 is the game that's up in the air. We don't know what's going on in week 4. I believe that's September 18th. And, there's...
We'll have to wait and see how that works.
There's
hope to have news for you when we start.
Yeah, hopefully. Would love to know what's going on there. And I don't know, there might be some out-of-the-box thinking.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. But then week 5 will be the crossover game. Again, it'll either be Mannheim Central or Kilcalico. And then finally, week 6 will be the start of the league schedule. And Wilson will be playing the likes of Mannheim Township, Hempfield, Penn Manor, McCaskey, and I believe Cedar Crest are the 5 teams. So bye-bye Warwick.
Yeah.
No more Warwick.
Oh, you're right.
Warwick's gone.
And unless they jump up to 6A, which will be released in a couple weeks,
right?
Then it's if they're still 5A and in Section 2. Although, if they're in Section 2, are they eligible to be a crossover game?
Warwick.
Yeah.
I guess so.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. See, okay. So this is... Yeah, we need stuff published by the Lancaster-Lebanon League, which I don't know when they're going to get around to doing that. I'm assuming they're going to wait until the new enrollment figures are out.
Right.
But yeah, I guess Warwick would be eligible. But see, that's the thing. Like, now that they didn't play in Section 2, they played in Section 1. So how do you match them up?
I don't know. I don't.
Because they'll probably in that 3-year cycle, 17, 18, 19, Warwick would have probably been the 3rd best Section 1 team, right? Like, easily, probably. I'm not even sure it would be even close. Hempfield probably 4.
No, yeah.
And that's the thing. Cedar Crest has only been up for 2 of those 3 years. Yeah, it's confusing. Who knows?
We'll wait, and Jeff Reinhardt will tell us. So
right. So, and yeah, so that's kind of just a quick early look at 2020, because I know people have already asked me a bunch about the schedule next year. It's not decided yet because of a whole variety of things. As soon as the classifications come out, which will be within the next month, could be in the next 2 weeks even, things will probably start to snowball, and by the holidays and obviously the start of 2020, a lot more will have come into focus and be clear. So anyways, let's get back to the present and recap the game against Chambersburg, which didn't start out great.
No, definitely not the start we were looking for. I kind of was joking at the end of the Warwick game, when that came down to literally the last play, and I was walking around just being like, never a doubt. People just kind of laugh. I'll be honest, there were certainly, I was starting to wonder, oh boy, what did we get ourselves into here at the beginning of that game? But they were able to get right kind of in a hurry, like almost on the flip. There was a single play where it appeared as though things changed, and pretty much from that point, everything did change. Now, there are obviously things leading up to that, where you had some close calls here and there, just some things didn't go your way. But man, like the way it seemed like they flipped a switch. I'm not saying that the switch was off before, but at least from a result standpoint, it looked like they weren't firing on all cylinders. It's not that they weren't fired up. It's not that they weren't prepared. It's not that they weren't, taking them. It was none of those things, It's just little things here and there. Chambersburg was getting everything early on. Wilson was not. And then one play kind of changed the game. It changed the momentum of the game, and therefore Wilson never gave it back. Man, they seized it when they got it and did exactly what you would want them to do when they had those opportunities.
Yeah, the most important thing is that they didn't panic.
No.
They didn't go away from what they wanted to do. They made a few tweaks.
I think Caleb mentioned that in Mike Drago's article in the Reading Eagle about how they didn't, he's like, 13-0 is not great, but he's like, our coaches were calm and were confident, and that the players therefore take that on too and are calm and confident, and it's just, we're good. And then they started executing, and the rest is history.
It's a tale of two halves, but really, Wilson dominated the game from midway through the second.
I'd say like if I had to pick, I'd say probably 18 minutes. The first 18 minutes. The first quarter went extremely fast.
It went super fast.
First quarter was over at 7:22.
Yeah, it went. It's 12 minutes. It took about 20 minutes to go an entire quarter, which is blazing fast.
Right.
It shocked me. And then being down 13-0 at the end of that quarter, I was just like, oh man,
right.
This isn't great. And the beginning of the second quarter, there was no more damage done, but Wilson couldn't chip away. And then the funny thing is, and I don't know if this is the play that you're talking about, is it was a Wilson mistake to me that ended up changing the course of the game. Because to me, when the momentum changed was right after Avanti's fumble.
Okay.
Which is hilarious to me because, you're thinking, oh no, there's a Wilson mistake. And then Chambersburg, and I talked about this in media with a few of the coaches and players on the sideline. And then we talked about it after the game. They get the ball after a fumble. They take a shot, not a deep shot, but, they wanted to get, 15 yards. It was an out pattern and covered. Wasn't a great throw. It was covered. But then instead of going back to their ground game, which had been
working
dynamic in the first quarter and the beginning of the second, they were picking up 4 to 6 yards a carry. They immediately threw 2 more passes were incomplete. No. They had to punt, and next thing you know, Wilson's scoring. Right. Or eventually, I guess it wasn't the next one because then it was the strip sack.
See, that's the one where
you're talking.
That's the one I'm thinking of. But yes, you're right though. And we talked about that afterward. It was odd. It seemed odd. Maybe because the quarter had changed and they were now going with the wind. They were trying to take advantage of something they didn't have in the first quarter.
There could be.
I'm just trying to think of why they would go away from what worked. It's not the first time we've had that all year. Been on the benefiting part of going away
just
from
some
something
head
that worked.
Scratching offensive calls.
We will take it. And our guys rose to the challenge. And guys made some plays. Honestly, when that ball was loose and I saw Cappy was going for it, I'm like, if he gets out on the run, they're not catching him. Yeah. Now, he
had to bend down and adjust, and there was guys on him quickly.
Yeah, there were guys right there. But I'm like, there's nobody in their backfield that's going to catch him if he gets that on the dead run.
Right. So following the ensuing Wilson punt after that 3-and-out from the Chambersburg offense, the Trojans took over, and then we saw Agent Santana strip sack Brady Stumbaugh, picked up by Capitano. He takes it a little bit, gets tackled, but I believe it was the next play.
It was the very next play.
Caleb Brown connects with Brady Gibble over the middle.
In my opinion, and again, when it comes to play calling and tendencies and all that, that is not my expertise. I'm certainly just a layman in those regards. However, that was a perfect play call. It
was very nicely executed.
There were a couple things, going on, and they're able to execute perfectly.
It was a long developing play too.
Right. And it was spinning, just we had seized momentum, and if we score here, but it wasn't just a score. It was just 2 plays.
Immediate.
2 plays. They're going to punt with the wind. They already had a good punt earlier. You just look at it, and then next thing you know, boom, it's 13-7 now.
Well, we are describing it. Let's take a look at it because that video is good. I mean, the video usually isn't good because of who's recording it, but we can take a look at it anyways. You're never gonna live it down. So let's start off at the beginning. A 37-yard run on Wilson's first possession. This is Mason Leonard. A little bit of a changeup. I don't know if it was by design or if they wanted to give Avante a break, but Mason Leonard started the game at running back there. He picked up the big 37 yards, but then
this play also helps set the tone,
right?
Because
and this is quarterback Caleb Brown making a
that's not the one I was thinking of, but there
run
are some
to the 50. Now that drive would end, but here is the fumble recovery.
Yep.
There is the strip sack by Adrian, picked up by Ethan Capitano, taken down inside the 25. And here, they're not going to show it to us. All right, I'll have to find it. I don't know who decides these game recaps. It's just like an automated system. But here's one of Avante's run on the evening. A big run by him. We heard from him a lot in the second half. Oh, and good. He's going to pause. It's just like not great huddle, not great.
But yeah, once things got moving in Wilson's favor, they really just kind of were able to really capitalize. So it was good to see. It, like we said, it wasn't the start we wanted, but it definitely got things going then.
Yeah. And did they show any of the touchdowns? Like this if this is an automated thing, it did not do a good job. So I'm gonna have to go through and see if I can
the
find
last
them.
real play.
This is the last real play of the game, and this is Gavin Leonard going down the sideline. I said to him after the game, I was just like, "You're just not fast enough. You just can't." He's like, "I made a few guys miss." I was like, "Well, not enough." So, so Wilson ended up, pulling away. It was actually a pretty dominant fashion for 2.5 quarters. It's just the first quarter and a half wasn't the best, but sometimes that happens.
Well, like you said, it was really important that they didn't panic. They did the things they needed to do. So, while not the ideal start, a great response, and you could see kind of later on that like Chambersburg started to feel it too, but don't forget that like when they came out, it was 13-13 and a half. So it wasn't like Wilson went on this huge run, but it's 13-13 and a half. And then next thing you know, Wilson reels off 28 straight, and essentially 41 straight, but 28 in the third quarter.
Right.
And it's 41-13. A guy I know was saying he was listening to the radio because I think he was working, but he heard on the radio, even though they were doing the Weiser Fleetwood game, they broke in and were like, just an update from Wilson, a little bit of a surprise. They're down 13-0. And he's like, oh man, that's kind of crazy. He's like, maybe I'll try and go up and catch the rest of the game. Before he got up there, or like as he's leaving his house, like in West Lawn, they're like, Wilson is now tied as 13-13 and a half. By the time he got there, and he said to a point where he could see the scoreboard, it was 41-13. He's like, what happened?
All right, I pulled up. This is the touchdown pass I would describe earlier. This is the first touchdown. This is immediately after the Santana strip sack, the Capitano fumble recovery. This is the first play after that. And you can see it's a really nice play, really nice double fake. And Brady Gibble gets in for the touchdown. Sideline goes crazy. Very good. And here's the other angle from the end zone. You're going to see the same thing. Is this slowed down? Does it look like it's going in slow motion?
It is slow.
Love it. Gotta love it. But we get to see it,
Yep.
So Caleb takes a snap, fakes to Avante, fakes to Mason. He kind of hides it behind his back. Beautiful, beautiful fake, play action play. And Brady Gibble's wide open for the score. So very, very good play call. Excellent execution by the team, and that was the very beginning of the turning point. Was like you said, that strip sack really changed things completely. And since we didn't see them before, let's see if we can watch a few of Wilson's other touchdowns. And this is going to be Caleb's rushing touchdown right before halftime. I believe he gets in with about 19 seconds left in the half. And the extra point would be missed, so that's how you get the 13-13 tie. So Caleb to Brady now, all the end zone views are like slowed down, and then Caleb takes it in right before half. Really great patience from Caleb there, waiting for his pulling tackle Sal Puglisi to come around, and set up those blocks. And so 13-13 at halftime. So good all around. And then, man, they executed all the adjustments that were made at halftime were perfectly executed in the second half. I mean, they took that opening kickoff. It was a nice return, and within 3 plays, they were able to score. And I mean, they said, they're like, if we can block one guy on the Chambersburg defensive line, we are going to have a good second half, and that's exactly what happened. It took 3 plays for them to score, and that's essentially what happened the rest of the evening.
Right.
So kudos to the coaching staff for knowing exactly what they needed to do, and then for the players executing what they were told. And that's how a 13-13 game becomes 41-13. And heck, that's how a 13-0 game sees 41 unanswered points by the top seed. And I saw one of the articles, it may have been Andy, say, and that's why Wilson's the top seed.
Yeah. It was impressive. The response was really impressive. And you could see it in some other games too, but like good teams are going to find a way to win, and when you do that in the regular season, it can lead to, your wins start to add up, and that's great. When you start to do that in the postseason, that's how you start to get beyond successful years,
Right.
winning games that not everything goes your way, finding ways to win, finding ways to overcome the adversity, not getting too high, not getting too low, just kind of maintaining your composure and then coming back to your game.
Right.
They didn't get sucked in to, a desperation mode or anything like that. They kept with what was working, and I was really impressed with how things turned on a dime, and how just kind of all over the place, because not just that, but you gave up 13 points. Was it their first 2 possessions they scored, Chambersburg?
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I said.
And then they didn't sniff the end zone again. The rest of
no.
To be honest, I don't know. I'm not sure if they got inside the 40 after that.
Without,
I think like near midfield they were probably close a couple times, but like I don't know that.
Well, I said,
I think towards the end they got close, but then we held them. But like I don't know that they were ever a threat to score again.
As we watch a few more of the touchdowns from Friday night, I said it was just super odd feeling at the beginning. When was Wilson down this much during the season?
Yeah.
It didn't happen in the first half.
We were talking about it, right?
Ever. Wilson was never down 2 scores in the first half. It was super weird. And then on top of that, not only were they down 2 scores in the first half, they were down 2 scores in the first quarter, and it was the first 2 Wilson defensive possessions that the opponent scored. And when was the last time that's happened? Like, that's not something that you see happen to Wilson. But as soon as they made some adjustments, like you said, what else did Chambersburg do the rest of the night? Their great running back, Keyshawn Jones, he had 1 run for the 53-yard touchdown. I believe he had 27 rushing yards the rest of the game. And that's total. That includes the early series too. So I think if you take away the first 2 series, I think he had like 12 yards the rest of the game.
That's what I was thinking. Like, what they end with, like 250 some yards, something like that.
And probably 100 plus of those were in the first 2 drives.
Probably like half were probably in the first couple drives. So,
it's so it was it ended up being a pretty dominant performance from the Bulldogs after they settled down following that first quarter, and they took care of business. And look, and the first quarter is just proof that like they were a threat. They had good components. They were a solid team. They fought hard in the mid-pen. They are not your typical 8 seed, but then Wilson took over the game, and it was great to see. Really great to see. I did enjoy the post-game talk from Coach Doms about the mid-pen writers picking Chambersburg to beat Wilson. That was fun to see that image plastered all over the locker room. I mean, legitimate it's a stereotype, but it really was bulletin board material to have writers pick against you as the number one seed.
Yeah. But it was one of those things where, we knew coming in that they were going to be quite capable. You look at the results from against good teams that they played this year, and it was no surprise. It was a little bit surprising how they kind of just jumped out on us, but yeah, they were ready to go.
For sure. So let's hear some of those statistics from the victory over Chambersburg. 41-13 Friday night. First downs, the Bulldogs led the way 22-13. They rushed 43 times for 366 yards. Chambersburg 27 times for 121. And again, one of those went for 53 on the first series of the game. Passing yards, Chambersburg 125 to Wilson's 101. And total offense 246 for Chambersburg, 467 for Wilson. Penalties. Wilson only had 2 on the night, which was a good thing, good sign. Keep those low. Chambersburg was flagged 9 times for 81, and one of them was huge to help Wilson's second drive continue. I believe it was following one of Wilson's penalties, a hold, set them back pretty far, and then
got an
unsportsmanlike penalty set Wilson up for a much easier. Was it 3rd and short or 2nd or 3rd and short?
I think instead of like 3rd and like 17, it became like 3rd and 2 or something.
Something very close to that. Possession time very much even. 24-16 Chambersburg, 23-44 for the Bulldogs. Wilson was 4 of 7 on 3rd downs. The Trojans 5 of 11. Neither team converted on 4th down chances. And when they were in the red zone, Chambersburg was perfect 1 of 1. Wilson was just 5 of 7. Late in the game, Wilson opted to go for it instead of a field goal. They didn't get it. That was one of the stops.
And then we knelt down.
And then the other non-conversion was the kneel at the end of the game. So overall, pretty good game. Some individual statistics of note. We said that Keyshawn Jones from Chambersburg had that big 53-yard rush. Take that one away, he only had 30 yards. And like I said, not many of those came after the first quarter. So Bulldogs defense definitely hungered down and performed really, really well in the 2nd through 4th quarters. On the Wilson side, quarterback Caleb Brown was actually the leading rusher this week for the Bulldogs. He had 13 carries for 137 yards and a touchdown, the long of 29, which I believe we saw in the highlights. Senior Avante Lockhart was next with 17 carries for 113 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mason and Gavin Leonard chipped in as well. Mason 72 yards and a touchdown. Gavin 50 yards rushing. Passing was all Caleb for the Bulldogs, 9 of 12, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he was not sacked at all. The leading receiver was your running back, Avante Lockhart, in terms of receptions. He had 3 for 29 and a touchdown. Brady Gibble got him in yardage, though. He had 2 receptions for 40 yards and the score that we saw. And Matt Fry also had 2 catches for 31 yards, including 1 big conversion for the Bulldogs on the evening. Defensively speaking, let's take a look at the leader. This week was Nate Hoekstra with 10 tackles, including a big one on 3rd and short to set up a 4th down at midfield, which the Bulldogs would swarm to the ball. I believe it was led by Adam Venino, according to Wayne Sear. He was the leader of the 4th down stop, which again was another big part of Wilson's 2nd quarter comeback. Avante Lockhart was next with 6 tackles, 2 of them for loss. Troy Corson matched that with 6 tackles as well. The Bulldogs also had an interception on the evening from Mason Leonard and 2 fumble recoveries by Anthony Coper and the one we saw from Ethan Capitano. And Adrian Santana had this strip sack. So, again, some nice individual performances. Player of the game this week, though, I feel like it was down to 2 individuals, and it could have gone to either of them. And I don't really know if I have a reasoning behind the one that we went with, but I think it's because of the way he responded after something happened that he was pretty upset about. And I kind of already talked about it, but it changed the game.
Yeah.
Like that's like 3 series there, from the Wilson fumble, Chambersburg stalls, Wilson stalls, Chambersburg strip sack. There's like the 4 possessions there from the fumble to the strip sack that just changed the course of the game. But since the Wilson mistake, everything snowballed. And his performance on the evening leads Avanti to getting our player of the game again, just a hair in front of Caleb, because Caleb played phenomenal. I had a couple people say how impressed they were with him during the Chambersburg game.
A couple of his runs, he looked like the style of Avanti, like where, particularly the one where he hit the DB and the DB's helmet came off.
Right, yeah. That was interesting. That was interesting.
They just weren't going to bring him down, which was awesome. But like that just reminded me of many runs that we've seen Avanti run this year.
Right. So Avanti Lockhart does get the nod. 17 rushes, 113 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the ground. 3 catches, 29 yards, and the score through the air. And then 6 total tackles, 2 for loss on defense. And I did mention on Twitter that he's, I believe, 116 yards shy of 1,000 for the season. He has 18 rushing touchdowns on the year, and he's also the leader in like 3 of the 4 main defensive categories for the team. So if you're looking for a guy that is probably the individual MVP, and judging by the number of player of the games he's gotten for us, Avanti Lockhart is that guy for the Bulldogs. And he showed it again Friday night against Chambersburg. And they're going to
one of the key things when you tweeted that out, you mentioned like every one of those yards was earned.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, he's had a lot of tough running this year, but man, he's come up big at those big times.
And he was one of the big highlights in the playoff loss to Harrisburg last year. Right. They at times didn't look like Harrisburg wanted to take him on. Right. Like when they got him going, that's when Wilson had a ton of success. So I would say that that's probably a good idea to do this year too. Yeah. Friday night is, we'll see. As Avanti, as that running game goes, as the offensive line controls the game and allows Avanti to do his thing, if they can give him 3 to 5 yards, he'll get another 5 after that. Mm-hmm. Like he will pick up that first down. So give him a hole and let Avanti do his job, and then throw in a change of pace with Mason or Jaden, and you have the recipe for success and getting back to a district championship game for the first time since 2016.
Yeah.
All right. So we didn't conduct any interviews. I know. Apologies to Andy. He said he was going to revoke his sponsorship since we weren't talking to anyone and giving him all the content that he needs. But
he was there to get the interviews.
Right. Yeah. I was like, we're just going to let you handle that. And he certainly did so, writing a very good write-up for EasternPAFootball.com. But the Bulldogs do have a game this Friday against the Harrisburg Cougars, coming in ranked 4, a 7-3 season. 2 of those losses counted in the district formula. One of them was to Archbishop Hoban, which is a huge nationally ranked team, which I believe they're up in the top 50 now nationally. Yeah. So very strong team. Yeah. That was one of Harrisburg's losses. The other 2 was the controversial one at home to Central Dauphin. Yeah. And then they also lost to State College, right?
Yes.
So
you look at it though, man. Right. So really, when you look at their losses, that Central Dauphin one, it's not guaranteed they would have won, but there's certainly what ifs. It's not like they were at would have had a chance for a Hail Mary. They would have had a chance from the 2-yard line. Right. And if you don't remember or weren't here for that part when we talked about that during the season, there was a clock malfunction, as in the scoreboard turned off.
Right. Completely gone.
And they just called the game when Harrisburg should have had another play. But that's in the past now. When you look at it, looking at what Harrisburg did yesterday to Central York, they were able to kind of get things going on the ground. I saw some highlight style plays of guys who looked like they were down and just kept running and were running right through Central York.
Right.
Is it Jameer Plant?
Yep. We'll get there.
Yeah. So just some of they've got playmakers. They can make dynamic plays. You better come ready to play. Like we've talked about this throughout the year. Like sometimes, the things that happen, in some games you can overcome. For example, like a 13-0 deficit, to Chambersburg is one thing. You don't want to have that same start against Harrisburg. You got to be ready from the start and make sure you're ready to go.
And Harrisburg was ready from the start. They went to Coatesville in week 1 and won after, you would expected the Red Raiders to be ready for that one after being upset by Harrisburg in the state semis last year. Coatesville falls to Harrisburg at home 14-6. Then Harrisburg went to Archbishop Hoban in Akron, Ohio, and lost that game 42-12. Again, one of the top 50 schools in the nation this year, Archbishop Hoban. Does not count in the District 3 power ratings, though. Harrisburg stayed on the road. They did not have a home game until September 21st. They went to Cedar Cliff, won that one easy, 41-7. Played in Harrisburg, but at Central Dauphin East, where they would shut out the Panthers 35-0. Finally, at home against Cumberland Valley, they beat 37-10. Then hosted Central Dauphin, and we just mentioned they lost that one in controversial fashion, 15-14. Went on the road once again to State College now and lost 21-6. So back-to-back losses. And then they got a scare from Chambersburg at Severance Field on October 12th. They held on to win that one 27-25 and then just obliterated Carlisle 62-0 on the road and then finished at home against Altoona on October 26th, which they won 66-14. And then just yesterday afternoon, they beat the number 5 seed Central York, who was 9-1 in the York Adams League. Well, they beat them 47-14, and it wasn't even that close.
I was going to say, and it wasn't that close.
So here we are, November 8th at Gursky against Wilson. And, Justin already mentioned one of their big players, and that's the running back Plant, but we can't forget the receiver Dante Kent. And, they had a 2-quarterback system, but they have mostly settled on one guy.
Right.
And he's been very strong this year. Had a great game yesterday. They have a very big line, offense and defensively speaking.
Including some Division I guys.
One of them
there.
committed to Penn State, Bruce. It's going to be a challenge. It was a challenge last year, and Wilson, got off to a very slow start. Not much different than what happened this past Friday night, but Harrisburg's just on a different level than Chambersburg is.
Oh yeah.
So if you do that again, you're going to be playing from behind, and I'm not sure you're going to be able to stop them on every drive.
No, if you fall behind, you're going to find yourself more likely than not in a spot like last year where you can work and work and work, but there's no room for error then. You know what I mean? Like there is, they fell behind early and then played well for the majority of the rest of the game, but just couldn't overcome that slow start. Well, we look last week against Chambersburg, they started slow, but they were able to overcome that and just kind of steamroll them. Even if you get things going against Harrisburg, you're not. That's not really going to be what happens. You know, like that. That's not in the cards here. So it's just important that you get out to a strong start and you play 4 quarters like you're capable of, and then you'll kind of see where you're at. Because if you want a positive outcome on Friday night, it's going to take 4 quarters against Harrisburg.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this isn't going to be an easy feat by any stretch of the imagination. It's going to be tough going the entire evening. And I don't know, do you think it's going to be an offensive showcase? I don't think that would fit into Wilson's game plan. I think it's something that they want to keep close. They want to feature a running game. And I don't know.
I honestly don't know. We haven't had really many like shootout style games. We've had games where we put up a lot of points,
but the other team was lagging behind.
Right. So, like you said, I think, I don't really know. I don't know what to expect. It'll be an interesting one. It should be a great game. So find your way to Gursky on Friday night. But again, I'm glad we have them here on Friday night instead of there on Saturday.
We don't have to go
I know they are used to that because every time they have a home game followed by a road game,
right?
They're playing.
Yeah, I don't think it's any
right.
There's no relevance.
It's not really
there.
A short week for them. They'll be fine.
Right.
But I like for us that we've played on Friday nights every night or every week. We get to play on Friday night again. I don't know. I'm interested to see because what we saw in the second and third quarters against Chambersburg, that third quarter was the best quarter of football I've seen us play all year.
Yeah, the only thing that I think would come close to it is a majority of the Mifflin game.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And I think what distorts that in my mind was that just was like so dominant. Like I didn't see from Mifflin against us what I saw from Chambersburg in the first quarter.
No, Chambersburg punched us in the mouth, whereas Mifflin didn't do much at all the entire game.
Right. And so that's where
it was never in doubt.
Right. I think in my head that's where I just equate them or don't equate them, I guess. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't think we want to get into like a straight up shootout. I don't think anybody wants that. No. But at the same time, it's going to take point. I don't think we're going to.
Well, I mean,
I don't think we're looking at like a 10-7 game.
Right.
I don't think that's an option.
Generally speaking, pretty good success rate when Wilson holds an opponent to about 20 points or fewer.
Yeah.
You get above that threshold, things get a little bit dicier. So if Wilson can hold Harrisburg to 3 touchdowns or less, I think we've got a pretty good shot.
Got a shot.
I don't want to say that it's all on the defense. I'm just saying statistically speaking.
Right. When you just look at the over.
It's much easier to compare how many points you give up than how many points you score. Like, is there a threshold where you can guarantee a win? Well, obviously, yeah. If you score 47 points, you probably expect to win that game.
Right.
But, I think if Wilson can hold the Cougars to 20 to 24 points, I think that's
it's reasonable.
That's doable.
It's
reasonable,
shot,
right? And I think it's a great opportunity because the other game is going to be a slugfest as well, and the two teams that emerge are going to have earned it, and then depending on who wins will depend on where the first non-Hershey, non-neutral District 3 championship game will be.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, technically speaking, because last year was kind of a mess because of the snow
that
happened in November. That changed a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. It should be exciting. I'm hoping that the Bulldogs can carry over some of that momentum because, like I said, they were playing with a fire in the second half of that second quarter, and then the third quarter that I don't want to say I haven't seen because I've certainly seen it.
They just didn't need it a lot this year.
Right. They sustained it over that 18 minutes, and then again, in the fourth quarter, didn't need it at that point.
No.
But yeah, they just had it going at a level that to see it there, we saw it for a few minutes at Springford, when we had just that burst and just, that blitz, and next thing you know, it's 21-3,
Yeah.
But that was only a few minutes. Now they got the job done in those few minutes, but I think you're going to need more than just that 18-minute burst against Harrisburg. So I hope they can keep that going. We're looking for 48. Right, yeah.
You're going to need that full 48. So, and we've been saying this all year as well. Whoever comes out of District 3 can and will go toe-to-toe with the District 1 champ, be it one of the Downingtowns, Coatesville, whoever it ends up being. Right. I would think it'd be one of those 3, but
it could be one of the CB West was good, right?
CB West was 9-1. I don't recall if they won.
Yeah, I didn't follow up on that.
So yes, I know Springford and CB South lost. Right. I don't know if CB West won.
Who was, I think, their other wasn't that
CB South was Springford's other loss. Yeah. So Downingtown East, Downingtown West, and Coatesville are probably the 3 favorites to come out
had
of
a
D1.
weird year with some injuries and things like that.
Yep. So we'll see what happens there. But 2 more weeks of District 3 play before worrying about, the state semifinal, which will be D3 versus D1. So come out to Gursky Friday night. Watch the Bulldogs again in the playoffs. District 3 semifinals hosting the 4th-seeded Harrisburg Cougars, a rematch of the game from last year. We also played Harrisburg in the 2015 playoffs. Won that game, and I believe that was the quarterfinals. That was back when 16 teams made it. So there was a first round, quarters, semis, championship. Wilson beat Harrisburg in 2015. Wilson also beat Harrisburg for the district championship in 2012. So I know there's also another playoff game in 2007 that no one wants to talk about.
Yeah, we'll just leave that one out.
Yeah, we'll leave that one to the side. I believe actually Harrisburg won the district championship that year then. Yeah. So it was a springboard for big things for Wilson in 2008. So, all right. Do you have anything else to add?
I don't think so. It should be a good game. Should be exciting. Come on out on Friday.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully we'll see you all at Gursky this Friday. Thanks for tuning in for the 18th episode of the Bulldog Hour's 5th season. And I think that wraps it up. So thanks for joining us. For the entire Wilson football team, he's Justin Raffoff. I'm Joe Mays. And until next time, remember, go Bulldogs.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Bulldog Hour. Want more Wilson football? Follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. Or visit www.bulldoghour.com. The Bulldog Hour is a featured program on jmnjrradio.com.